Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something that might make you extremely hungry, or perhaps extremely grateful for your microwave. We're going to travel back in time to the height of the Qing dynasty, right into the heart of the Forbidden City in Beijing. But we aren't going to the throne room to discuss politics, and we aren't going to the harem to listen to gossip. We are going to the one place that actually mattered, the kitchen. We are going to explore the forgotten flavors of the Imperial court, a place where a single bowl of soup could cost more than a peasant's lifetime earnings, and where serving a slightly cold dumpling could literally cost you your head. It's going to be a steaming, savory, and high-stakes journey through the most exclusive restaurant in history. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It really helps the channel, and it ensures the kitchen god doesn't report your bad behavior to the heavens. Also, I'd love to know where you are watching from tonight. Drop a comment down below with your city and the current time. It's always fascinating to imagine these stories drifting into different time zones while the world sleeps. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are standing in the pre-dawn darkness of Beijing. The air is crisp, biting at your nose with a dry chill that is characteristic of northern China. It is still pitch black. The sun hasn't even thought about rising yet, but the city is already awake. Or rather, a specific part of the city is awake. You are standing outside the Gate of Divine Might, the northern entrance to the Forbidden City. You aren't an emperor, and you certainly aren't a concubine. Tonight, you are an observer, a ghost drifting through the heavy wooden doors into the logistical heart of the empire. As you step through the gate, the first thing that hits you isn't the sight of golden roofs or red walls. It is the smell. It is a thick, complex wall of aroma that seems to have a physical weight. It smells of roasting duck fat, simmering pork bones, star anise, ginger, and the distinct, sulfurous tang of coal smoke. You are walking into the Imperial kitchens. You might imagine the Emperor's kitchen as a quaint little room with a few chefs chopping vegetables. You would be wrong. You are entering a factory. You are walking into the domain of the Imperial Household Department, or the Naiwafu. This isn't just a kitchen. It is a city within a city, a bureaucratic monster responsible for the Emperor's daily existence. The scale is staggering. The steam here is so thick it acts like fog. It swirls around your ankles and obscures the lanterns hanging from the eaves. You navigate through the maze of courtyards. The ground is slick with water and grease. Porters are rushing past you, carrying baskets that are taller than they are. One basket is filled entirely with fresh scallions. Another is filled with live carp splashing water onto your shoes. You have to dodge a cart piled high with charcoal. This is the fuel that powers the dynasty. To give you a sense of scale, the Imperial kitchen employed over 3,700 people. That includes everyone from the master chefs to the people whose entire job was just to pick the seeds out of watermelons. It was a culinary army. As you walk deeper into the steam, you pass different departments. There's a section dedicated entirely to tea. There's a section just for pastries. There's a section for roasting meat. It feels less like a kitchen and more like an industrial complex. You hear the rhythmic chopping of cleavers against wooden blocks. Thwack, 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 sounding like a slow applause. It is a hypnotic, white noise rhythm that underpins the chaos. You step over a threshold into one of the main cooking halls. The heat hits you instantly. It is a humid, savory heat. Along the walls, you see small shrines. This is a crucial detail of the kitchen that goes unnoticed by outsiders. Every stove has a god. This is the cult of Zhao Shun, the kitchen god. He is the domestic spy of the celestial bureaucracy. You notice something sticky smeared on the lips of the kitchen god statue, malt sugar or honey. The chefs do this to literally sweeten his mouth, bribing him so that when he ascends to heaven, he either says sweet things about them or his mouth is so stuck together he can't say anything at all. You wander past a row of massive iron cauldrons bubbling with a clear, golden liquid. This is a supreme stock, the lifeblood of Chinese cuisine. It has been simmering for days, smelling of old hen's ham and scallops. You feel the vibration of the floor as heavy sacks of rice are dropped nearby. You are in the belly of the beast now. The sun is just starting to crack the horizon, turning the steam from gray to gold. The machine is running. You step away from the bubbling cauldrons and find yourself pushed toward the side of the room by a bustling group of men in distinct robes. You are about to learn that the Imperial kitchen isn't just a place of cooking. It is a place of politics. There's a rigid, terrifying hierarchy here. At the top are the chef commanders. These men don't chop vegetables. They stand with their hands behind their backs, tasting, critiquing, and screaming. Below them are the specialized chefs. You see a man whose entire career is dedicated to roasting ducks. He doesn't know how to make soup. He creates crispy skin, and that is his entire universe. But here is the weird, dark underbelly of the staffing structure, the tension between the chefs and the eunuchs. The Imperial household department is run by eunuchs. These are the men who control the budget and the supply chain, and they are notoriously corrupt. Imagine you are a chef. You need premium pork for the emperor. You ask the eunuch. The eunuch buys mediocre pork, pockets the difference in silver, and tells you to make it work. If the emperor complains, you take the blame. There's a famous story about Emperor Daoguang, who was known for being incredibly stingy. One day, he asked the eunuch how much a simple bowl of noodle soup with eggs cost outside the palace walls. The eunuch, terrified that his embezzlement scheme would be exposed, fell to his knees and lied. He told the emperor that outside the palace, eggs were rare, magical jewels that cost 30 taels of silver each. The emperor sighed and said, I guess I can't afford eggs then, and stopped eating them. The chefs standing nearby had to bite their tongues and cook eggless soup, knowing full well eggs cost pennies. You notice the chef's clothing. They wear long robes with unusually tight sleeves. This isn't just fashion, it is theft prevention. Wide sleeves are great for pocketing rare mushrooms or chunks of gold leaf. The tight sleeves ensure that nothing leaves the kitchen that isn't in the emperor's stomach. You lean against a pillar, watching a young apprentice getting yelled at for slicing ginger the wrong way. The ginger slices must be uniform, paper thin. If they are too thick, the emperor might frown. If the emperor frowns, the eunuch gets mad. If the eunuch gets mad, the chef gets beaten. The pressure is palpable. Every dish that leaves this room is a roll of the dice. Is it salty enough? Is it hot enough? Is it poisonous? You watch a chef commander dip a silver spoon into a pot of shark fin soup. He tastes it. He pauses. The whole room holds its breath. He nods. The room exhales. The soup is safe. For now. But you know that ingredients don't just appear out of thin air. Before the duck is roasted, before the soup is simmered, the raw materials have to arrive. And the most important ingredient of all isn't meat or vegetable. It is the liquid that makes up 90% of the meal. You follow the sound of creaking wooden wheels toward the western gate. It is still dark, but distinct convoy is arriving. These aren't carts carrying pigs or rice. They are carrying large, ceramic jars sealed with yellow paper and red wax. They are guarded by soldiers. You are witnessing the arrival of the Emperor's water. You might think water is just water, but in the Forbidden City, water is a matter of geography and snobbery. The Emperor does not drink well water. Well water in Beijing is hard and bitter. It ruins the tea. The water in these jars comes from one specific place, Jade Spring Hill, located about 15 kilometers west of the palace. Emperor Qianlong was a water connoisseur. He commissioned a special silver scale and weighed water from springs all over China. His theory was simple. The lighter the water, the purer it was. According to his records, the water from Jade Spring Hill weighed slightly less per cup than the next best water. Therefore, by imperial decree, it was the only water fit for the Dragon Throne. You watch the porters unloading the jars. Each jar holds about 80 liters. If they drop one, it's not just a spill, it's a crime. The citizens of Beijing know this sight. When the water flag passes, they step aside, drinking their bitter well water while the sweet dew of Jade Spring rolls past them. There was even a specific military unit whose only job was to guard the water transit, because rich merchants would try to bribe the porters to swap a jar of Jade Spring water for regular water. You step closer to an open jar. A chef is using a ladle to transfer the water into a copper kettle. The water is crystal clear. You watch a tea master take a ladle of it. He is preparing the Emperor's morning milk tea. He watches the water boil, listening for the sound he calls wind in the pines, the specific hiss of water just before it boils. If he uses hard water, the bubbles are wrong, the sound is wrong, and the tea is ruined. It seems excessive, doesn't it? Guarded convoy for water. But as you stand in the kitchen, you realize that in a pre-industrial world, clean, sweet water was the ultimate luxury. By drinking only spring water from a protected source, the Emperor wasn't just being a snob, he was staying alive. Now the water needs heat. But you can't just burn any old log in the Forbidden City. You leave the water jars and move toward the heat. The temperature in the kitchen is rising. But surprisingly, the air isn't choked with thick, black smoke. The air smells faintly sweet, almost woody, like a forest after rain. You're looking at the fuel of the gods. White charcoal. You pick up a piece from a basket. It is silvery white on the outside and rings like metal when you tap two pieces together. This charcoal comes from the mountains, made from hard oak burned at incredibly high temperatures. The result is a fuel that burns incredibly hot, incredibly long, and most importantly, smokeless. You watch a firekeeper arranging the charcoal in a stove. He fans it gently. The charcoal glows a fierce, steady orange. There are no sparks. There is no crackling. It is a disciplined fire. This charcoal was so precious that its distribution was strictly regulated by rank. The Emperor got a massive daily allowance. A low-ranking concubine might only get a few caddies a day in winter. You could literally tell who was the Emperor's favorite by how warm her room was. You see a chef placing a copper pot over the white charcoal, controlling the heat with a small fan made of goose feathers. The smokeless nature of the fuel is critical because you can't have the smell of burning pine drifting into the throne room while the Emperor is receiving a diplomat. The red walls of the palace must remain pristine. You notice something else near the stove, a small pile of pine branches and cypress twigs. These aren't for fuel, they are for flavor. When roasting the famous Peking duck, the chefs would throw aromatic woods onto the charcoal at the last minute. The smoke was the seasoning. You watch the firekeeper. His face is illuminated by the orange glow. He is sweating, but he wears thick layers because it would be disrespectful to be underdressed in the palace. The heat from the charcoal radiates outward, warming the stone floor. You realize that this fire has been burning in some form or another for hundreds of years. Suddenly, a supervisor barks an order. The fire is too hot. The firekeeper frantically uses tongs to remove 2 pieces of charcoal, burying them in sand. Precision. The water is boiling. The fire is steady. Now, the solids must be added. You follow the gaze of the chefs to a large table where a group of women are huddled over porcelain bowls, doing something that looks incredibly tedious. They are picking through rice. You step away from the intense heat of the charcoal stoves and move into a slightly cooler, quieter side room. The light here filters in through paper windows to illuminate a long wooden table. Around it sit a dozen maidservants. They aren't cooking. They are staring intently at piles of grain, tweezers in hand. They're engaged in the rice selection. You might think rice is just rice, but for the Emperor, rice was political. The rice served in the Forbidden City was tribute rice. You lean over the shoulder of one of the women. Her job is to remove any grain that is broken, discolored, or slightly too small. The Emperor's bowl must contain only whole, perfect, pearlescent grains. It is a task of mind-numbing repetition. There were different grades of rice for different people. The Emperor and the Empress Dowager ate the first grade rice. The high-ranking consorts ate second grade. The servants ate coarse rice. Your rank in society was literally defined by the whiteness and wholeness of the starch in your bowl. You watched the grains falling into a yellow glaze bowl. Click, click, click. It sounds like rain. You notice a chef coming over to collect a bowl of perfected rice. He washes it in jade spring water 3 times. He rubs it gently. He doesn't want to break the grains. He just spent hours selecting. He places the rice in a ceramic pot and places it on the stove. Cooking rice in a pot without a rice cooker is an art. You have to know exactly when to lower the heat to get the crust on the bottom without burning it. Though the Emperor rarely ate the crust, that was a treat for the servants. You see another pot nearby bubbling with a purple, sticky porridge. This is black rice, often used for health tonics. The Empress Dowager Cixi was famous for loving sweet porridges. The maidservant you are watching rubs her eyes. She is tired. She has looked at 10,000 grains of rice this morning. She spots a tiny black weevil in the pile. She deftly flicks it away. She saved the emperor from seeing a bug, and essentially saved the Ministry of Right's a massive headache. The rice is the canvas. But a canvas is boring without paint. The rice needs companion. And in the Qing court, the ultimate companion was meat. But not just any meat. You turn towards a butcher's block, where a chef is wrestling with something that looks like a furry, severed hand. You leave the quiet, hypnotic clicking of the rice room and return to the main hall, where the butchery is happening. The smell of raw iron and animal fat is heavy here. You see a chef lifting a heavy, dark object onto a wooden block. At first glance, it looks like a boxing glove made of fur. You look closer. It is claws. It is a bear's paw. You have reached the pinnacle of the 8 treasures. In the culinary philosophy of the Qing court, the more difficult an ingredient was to obtain, and the harder it was to prepare, the more valuable it was. Taste was almost secondary to texture. You watch the chef preparing the paw. He doesn't just roast it. That would be barbaric. The paw is tough, full of cartilage and tendons. If you cooked it simply, it would be like chewing on a tire. The process is an ordeal. First, he coats it in mud and bakes it to remove the fur. Then he simmers it. Then he changes the water. He simmers it again with chicken, ham, and duck. He does this for days. The goal is to break down the collagen until the paw becomes a gelatinous, semi-translucent mass that melts in the mouth. It is essentially meat jello. The obsession with bear's paw dates back to the ancient philosopher Mencius, who famously said, "Fish is what I want. Bear's paw is also what I want." He was using it as a metaphor, but the gourmand just heard, "Bear's paw is tasty." The chefs believed the left front paw was the best, because folklore said bears lick their left paws to hibernate, concentrating all the nutrients there. You watch the chef poking the paw with a chopstick. It goes through easily. It is ready. He discards the chicken and ham that were cooked with it. They were just flavor sacrificers. The paws absorb their souls. He serves the paw in a rich brown reduction sauce. It looks like a glossy brown mound. Many modern gastronomes who have historically tried bear paw describe it as mild or bland, like fatty pork skin. The value wasn't the flavor. It was the fact that you controlled the wilderness. You commanded a hunter to go to Manchuria, kill a dangerous predator, and transport its foot to Beijing. You were eating power. The chef carefully places a paw into a covered porcelain dish. It is a showstopper, but the bear's paw is heavy. It is yang. The meal needs balance. It needs something yin. You turn your head to see a row of chefs sitting at a bench with magnifying glasses. You are about to enter the world of saliva. You walk away from the heavy meats and approach the clean room. Here, the air is still and the light is bright. You see a row of eunuchs and chefs hunched over small bowls of water. They are holding tweezers made of silver or bamboo. They are staring at little white, cup-shaped objects floating in the water. You are looking at the edible bird's nest. This is not a nest made of twigs and mud. This is the nest of the swiftlet, a bird found in the caves of Southeast Asia. The bird builds a nest entirely out of its own saliva. So, yes, you are watching people prepare spit soup. But before you gag, look at the process. The nests arrive dry and hard. They are soaked in warm water to soften. But the nests are full of tiny feathers, twigs, and sand. The emperor cannot eat a feather. So, these men are picking them out, one by one. You watch a eunuch use his tweezers to grab a microscopic black down feather trapped in the white gelatin. He pulls it out. He swishes the nest in the water. He looks again. This process takes hours. A single nest might require half a day to clean perfectly. Bird's nest was valued for its tonic properties. The Empress Dowager Cixi was addicted to it, believing it kept her looking young. You watch the clean nest being placed into a double boiler. Bird's nest has no flavor. Zero. It tastes like whatever you cook it in. So they pour the supreme stock over it, or perhaps rock sugar and pear juice. The nest acts as a sponge, absorbing the liquid and providing that prized gelatinous texture. Slippery, soft, but with a slight snap. You look at the pile of raw nests. They look dirty and unappetizing. Then you look at the finished bowl. It is translucent, glowing, elegant. The transformation is incredible. It is the ultimate example of human labor adding value to raw material. You aren't paying for the bird's saliva. You are paying for the 4 hours a guy with the tweezers spent going cross-eyed to make it perfect. But there is another ingredient that rivals it. Another texture prize from the ocean. You leave the quiet precision of the bird's nestation and head back towards the steamers. The smell here is briny, oceanic, but also rich with a scent of ginger and wine. You see a chef holding a large, dried, triangular object. It looks like a piece of sandpaper. It is a shark fin. Specifically, it is the dorsal fin of a large shark, dried until it is hard as wood. If you threw this into a pot of water and boiled it for an hour, it would remain inedible. You are witnessing the rehydration marathon. The chef takes the fin and soaks it, steams it, scrapes off the sand, soaks again. He has to remove the cartilage in the meat, leaving only the needles, the collagen fibers that support the fin. This process takes 4 to 5 days. Like the bird's nest, the shark fin has absolutely no flavor. You might ask, why eat it then? Because it has texture. It provides a specific mouthfeel that is simultaneously smooth, crisp, and slippery. And of course, because it is expensive. You watch the chef preparing the sauce. He takes the supreme stock and reduces it, adding soy sauce, yellow wine, and a bit of chicken fat. He places the rehydrated, noodle-like fin needles into a bowl and pours the thick, golden brown gravy over it. When you eat it, you're eating the sauce, but the fin provides the structure. Even in the Qing dynasty, shark fin was so expensive that there were counterfeits. Unscrupulous merchants would make fins out of mung bean vermicelli or gelatin. The Imperial chefs had to be experts at spotting the fakes. If a chef served the emperor fake noodles, it would be considered treason. You look at the bowl. It glows with an amber light. It looks luxurious. But you can't help but think about the shark. The chef garnishes it with few drops of red vinegar to cut the richness. This dish represents the conquest of the sea. The emperor sits in Beijing, far from the ocean, yet he consumes the apex predator of the deep. But the emperor is a Manchu. He is a nomad at heart. You smell something different wafting from the next room. Is that milk? You follow your nose away from the seafood station and catch a scent that seems totally out of place in a stereotypical Chinese kitchen. It smells like a dairy farm. It smells like warm milk, caramelized sugar, and fermenting curds. You have entered the tea and milk department. We often forget that the Qing dynasty was founded by the Manchus, a semi-nomadic people from the northeast. Their diet was heavy on dairy. While the Han Chinese population was largely lactose intolerant and viewed cheese with suspicion, the Manchu emperors loved it. You see a massive copper pot boiling. A tea master is stirring it with a giant ladle. He is making milk tea. But this isn't the bubble tea you buy at the mall. This is savory, rich, and funky. He boils brick tea until the water is dark and bitter. Then he pours in cow's milk, or sometimes mare's or camel's milk. He adds salt, and he adds butter. It is a calorie bomb, designed for surviving a winter on the steppe. You look at the side tables. You see piles of milk skin, dried sheets of cream that look like puff pastry. You see milk tofu, fresh cheese curds, dried and hardened. The emperor would snack on these cheese cubes while reading state papers. The Forbidden City even had its own cows. There were cow sheds located on the west side of the palace. These cows were treated better than most citizens. Every day, the milk was measured. The emperor got a daily quota of 50 cows worth of milk. A low-ranking noble lady might not get any fresh milk at all. Dairy was a status symbol. You watch a chef preparing fried milk. He takes thickened milk custard, batters it, and deep fries it. It's crispy on the outside, liquid on the inside. This is fusion cuisine, Manchu ingredient plus Han technique. You realize that the Imperial kitchen isn't a museum of one culture. It's a collision zone. The emperor is a hybrid. He is the Khan of the Manchus and the emperor of China. He eats cheese and rice. But all this meat and dairy is heavy. Sometimes the emperor just wants a vegetable, but in the Forbidden City, even a vegetable cannot just be a vegetable. It has to be the most expensive vegetable in the world. You walk past a heavy, milky scent and find a station that looks deceptively simple. A chef is standing over a small bowl containing a single, pale yellow heart of a Napa cabbage. He is gently pouring a clear liquid over from a small ladle. It looks like he is serving boiled cabbage in hot water. You might think, wow, budget cuts? You would be wrong. You're looking at boiled cabbage in supreme soup, possibly the biggest flex in Chinese culinary history. This dish is the epitome of hidden luxury. The liquid is not water. It is a result of the stock that has been clarified to the point of invisibility. The chef took that rich, cloudy stock we saw earlier and performed a magic trick. He minced chicken breast meat into a paste and dumped it into the boiling stock. The meat paste acted like a magnet, attracting all the impurities, oil, and cloudiness. He skimmed it off, filtered it through silk, and was left with a broth that looks like Evian water but tastes like the essence of 1,000 chickens. Then the cabbage. He didn't just chop a cabbage. He peeled away the green outer leaves, then the white tough leaves. He kept only the tiny, tender, yellow heart in the center. He poked tiny holes in it with a needle so it would absorb the broth. He steamed it until it was soft as butter. When the emperor lifts the lid, he sees a cabbage in water. He takes a sip. His brain explodes. The cognitive dissonance between looks like water and tastes like meat is the point. It is sophisticated. It is subtle. It's a culinary equivalent of wearing a $500 plain white t-shirt. If you know, you know. You watch the chef garnish the cabbage with a single wolfberry. It is beautiful in its minimalism. It requires more technique than the shark fin. You have seen the fire, the water, the meat, and the vegetables. But now, you notice the sweat on the chef's forehead. It is summer in Beijing. The kitchen is 40 degrees Celsius. How do they keep the shrimp fresh? How does the emperor drink cold plum juice? You look at a heavy wooden door in the floor, a cellar. You are going down to the ice house. You step away from the steaming stoves and follow a group of porters toward a dark, stone archway. They are carrying thick blankets and heavy hooks. You follow them down a set of stairs into the ice cellar. The temperature drops instantly. The smell changes from roast duck to damp stone and coal dust. You are entering the emperor's refrigerator. But this isn't an electric appliance. This is a hole in the ground filled with physics and brute force. The blocks of ice were harvested last December. In the dead of winter, armies of workers cut the ice from the frozen moat and lakes, dragged it on sleds, and stacked it in these pits. They packed the spaces between the blocks with straw to insulate them. Then they sealed the door and waited for summer. Now it is July. Outside, the cicadas are screaming in the heat. Inside, it is freezing. Ice was a currency. In the summer, the emperor would grant ice tickets to high-ranking officials, essentially a coupon for a block of ice. It was the ultimate bonus. You would send your servant to the ice house, redeem your ticket, and drag your melting bonus home to cool your watermelon. You watch a chef chipping off a piece of edible ice. There were two types: dirty ice from the moat used for cooling rooms, and clean ice from spring-fed lakes used for food. The chef takes the clean ice and crushes it. He serves it with sweet cheese or plum syrup. It's an Imperial slushie. You shiver. It's actually cold down here. The porters heave a massive block onto a cart and cover it with a quilt. They have to run. The ice runners had to sprint from the cellar to the palace halls to minimize melting. You imagine the sight. A man running to the Forbidden City, dripping water, carrying a freezing rock, so the emperor can have a cold drink. You follow the ice cart back up to the surface. The heat hits you like a hammer. The dish is ready. The soup is hot. The drink is cold. It is time to serve. But wait, before the dish goes to the emperor, it has to pass a test. You see a eunuch pulling out a small, shiny object from his sleeve, a silver plate. Paranoia is about to be served. You follow the line of serving eunuchs, a procession of yellow silk and lacquered trays, toward the Hall of Mental Cultivation, where the emperor is waiting to dine. But before the food enters the royal presence, It stops at a staging table. The atmosphere here is tense. You are witnessing the safety protocol. In a world where poisoning your political rivals was a standard career move, the Emperor didn't trust anyone. You watch a high-ranking eunuch pull out a kit. It contains small silver plates and silver needles. He takes a silver needle and inserts it into the bear's paw. He waits. He pulls it out. He checks the color. If it turns black, it's poison. If it stays silver, it's safe. Here is the weird fact. This doesn't actually work for most poisons. Silver tarnishes when it touches sulfur. Arsenic often contains sulfur impurities. So historically, silver could detect bad arsenic, but it wouldn't detect cyanide or nightshade. Basically, the silver test was security theater. It made the Emperor feel safe. But the silver test is just step one. Step two is a taster. You watch a specific eunuch step forward. He takes a spoon. He eats a mouthful of the bear's paw. Then they wait. They stand there for a few minutes, staring at him. Does he grab his throat? Does he foam at the mouth? No? Okay, the Emperor can eat. Imagine being the taster. Your entire job description is human canary. Every meal is a game of Russian roulette. But hey, you get to eat the best food in the world, if you survive. Puai, the last emperor, wrote that the food served him was often cold and terrible. Why? Because the safety protocols took so long. By the time the dish was cooked, plated, carried across the massive palace, tested with silver, and eaten by the taster, 20 minutes had passed. The hot soup was lukewarm. The crispy duck was soggy. The emperor ate the safest food in China, but arguably some of the worst tasting fine dining. The procession starts moving again. The eunuchs walk with a specific gliding gait to avoid spilling a drop of soup. You follow them into the hall. The emperor is sitting there, alone. There is no lively dinner party. Just a man on a cushion, surrounded by silence. The dishes are laid out. It is time to eat. But there is a rule he must follow. A rule that ensures he remains a mystery. You stand in the corner of the hall of mental cultivation, hidden in the shadows. The emperor sits on his cushion. In front of him are 3 tables pushed together. On them are roughly 40 to 100 dishes. It looks like a buffet for a football team, but it is for one man. This is the loneliness of the 100 dishes. You watch him eat. He doesn't look eager. He looks bored. He points with his finger. A eunuch brings a bowl of the boiled cabbage. The emperor takes a bite. He chews. He takes a second bite. He takes a third bite. The eunuch immediately shouts, "Remove!" The bowl is taken away. It will not return. This is a 3-spoon rule. The emperor is never allowed to eat more than 3 spoonfuls of any single dish. Why? Security. If the emperor eats 10 spoonfuls of the duck, everyone knows the emperor likes duck. The eunuchs will tell the chefs. The chefs will tell the suppliers. Suddenly, people can bribe the emperor with duck. Or worse, an assassin knows exactly which dish to poison next time. By eating only 3 bites of everything, the emperor masks his preferences. He is a cipher. He might love that bear's paw, but has to watch it be taken away after 3 bites. It is a tragic form of self-preservation. Out of the 100 dishes on the table, the emperor might only touch 10. The other 90 are looking dishes. They are just for display, to show the abundance of the empire. You feel a wave of pity for the man in the yellow robe. Dining is usually a social activity. He eats in total silence. If he speaks, it is a decree. He eats to live. He eats to perform the ritual of being emperor. But what happens to the food he didn't eat? You suspect there's a darker, grittier answer. You watch the eunuchs clearing the table. They aren't throwing the food away. They are packing it carefully into boxes. They are smiling, because that half-eaten shark fin is about to become their paycheck. You follow the clearing eunuchs out of the emperor's hall, back towards the kitchen gates. They are moving with a different energy now. The stiff formality is gone, replaced by a hurried, conspiratorial efficiency. You are witnessing the black market of the royal crust. The eunuchs carry the boxes to the back gate. Waiting there are runners from the high-end restaurants of Beijing. Money changes hands. The boxes are handed over. These restaurants, located just outside the palace walls, specialize in palace-style cuisine. But they don't just cook like the palace. They serve the actual palace food. Imagine you are a wealthy merchant in Beijing. You order the emperor's duck. The waiter brings you a duck that has a chunk missing. Why, you ask? Because the dragon face gazed upon it and took a bite. The waiter whispers, "You paid double. You are sharing a meal with the Son of Heaven." But what about the food that was too messy to resell as a whole dish? The soups, the sauces? The eunuchs would dump them all into a giant pot. Duck, chicken, tofu, shark fin, all mixed together. They would simmer into a thick, chaotic stew called sloppy stew. This was sold on the streets of Beijing. Poor students and laborers would line up to buy a bowl. Look, I found a piece of shark fin in my gruel. It was the trickle-down economy in its most literal form. You watch the eunuchs counting their coins. This is how they got rich. The emperor's budget for food was astronomical, but he only ate a tiny fraction. The rest was siphoned off. The kitchen was a money-laundering operation built on calories. You stand by the gate as the carts roll away into the Beijing night. The city is feasting on the emperor's scraps. The cycle is complete. The water came from the hill. The bear came from the north. It was cooked by the army of chefs, tested by the silver needle, nibbled by the emperor, and finally devoured by the city. But you know this system cannot last. The sounds outside the wall are changing. It's not just carts anymore. It's gunfire. The dynasty is dying. You are standing in the main courtyard of the Imperial kitchen. But the steam is gone. The roar of the fire is gone. It is 1924. The last emperor, Huai, has been expelled from the Forbidden City. The chefs are packing up. There is no water arriving from Jade Spring Hill today. The machine has stopped. You watch an old chef wrapping his cleaver in a cloth. For 40 years, his entire existence was roasting ducks for a man he was forbidden to look at. Now he is just an unemployed cook in a republic. He takes a small jar of the supreme stock, starter culture, and hides in his robe. Maybe he will open a restaurant. Maybe he will keep the flavor alive. You walk through the silent halls. The dust is already settling on the stoves. The kitchen god statue is still there, the sugar on his lips dry and cracked. The smell is fading. The intense aroma of bear paw and shark fin is being replaced by the smell of cold ash and neglect. You feel a profound sense of melancholy. Whatever you think of the monarchy, the waste, the corruption, the culinary achievement was undeniable. It was a system that pushed human skill to its absolute limit in the service of flavor. It turned saliva into gold. Today, the Forbidden City is a museum. Sometimes, on hot summer days, guards and visitors report smelling a faint, phantom scent of curry or roasted meat near the kitchen quarters. Is it ghosts? Or is it the centuries of grease and smoke that permeated deep into the wood and brick, releasing a memory of the feast when the sun hits it just right? You step out of the gate of divine might. The Beijing dawn is breaking, but it's a modern dawn. You hear cars. You see electric lights. You look back at the red walls. The palace is empty. The emperor is gone. But for a moment, you can still taste the milk tea on your tongue. You can feel the texture of the bear's paw. You have dined with the dragon. The heavy wooden gates of Forbidden City creak shut behind you, sealing away the echoes of the chopping blocks and the simmering pots. The great kitchen, once a roaring engine of steam and fire, is now quiet, sleeping under the dust of history. The chefs have gone, the eunuchs have vanished, and the last wisp of smoke from the white charcoal has dissolved into the Beijing sky. You are standing in the cool, quiet air of the present. The intensity of the feast has faded, leaving you with a gentle heaviness, a comfortable fullness. The frantic energy of the kitchen, the shouting, the rushing, the heat, has settled into a peaceful silence. Imagine the flavors slowly drifting away from your memory, like a boat floating down a foggy river. The rich saltiness of soup, the sweetness of the milk tea, the savory depth of the roast duck, they all blend together into a warm, golden haze. You don't need to taste them anymore. You just need to feel the comfort they brought. Your breathing slows down, in and out, just like the rhythmic fanning of the charcoal fire. Steady, calm. You are no longer a ghost in the palace. You are back in your own bed, safe and warm. You don't need a silver needle to test your rest. You don't need a jade pillow. You have everything you need right here. The Emperor has finished his meal. The dynasty has ended. The world is at rest. And now, so are you. The end, good night.